Hello and welcome to Salford Now. I'm Harriet Beddoe.
And I'm Charlotte Lineker. Here's what's coming up on today's show.
The city of Salford is now at increasing risk of extremist far-right views, reported as being vulnerable post-lockdown.
Now, just how accessible is your street? A children's writer in Salford has decided to tackle the issues surrounding accessibility in a new book series. We will speak to the writer later in today's show.
Helping teams and organisations work towards a more inclusive, accessible offer for disabled people.
We took to Salford Now socials to find out how the community of Salford react to the cancellation of Bull Hill and Princes Park firework display.
views in Salford could be at risk of increasing, according to one charity. A report commissioned looking into the effect the pandemic has had on resilience in local communities has identified places in England and Wales that are vulnerable to far-right views. Isaac Shelton joins us to tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. So this report was commissioned by the charity Hope Not Hate, and it's looked at 52 authorities to examine how the impact of that pandemic has affected social cohesion. In the report, Salford was identified as one of the authorities that could be at risk of an increase in extreme views as a result of financial inequality. The study identified that economic hardship usually leads to people being frustrated at the system and as a result turn their frustration to blame people, and therefore they're more susceptible to extreme views. So the charity got their results by measuring resilience of an area, which measured things by looking at how much optimistic they are and how much trust they have in their local leaders. Low resilience is often associated with economics, and the report also looked at how COVID has exposed existing issues that were then exaggerated by the pandemic. So Salford was in the top 20% of authorities that was identified as a council that has seen the hugest rise in number of people claiming benefits as a result of coronavirus. This time last year, over 30,000 people claimed universal credit in the city, which was double the figure that was reported in February 2020. So last week, the Chancellor announced a taper of 8% on universal credit, which means people will be able to keep more of their money. But millions of people in the country, and yet that includes Salford, have already seen their income fall as a result of the removal of the £20 uplift. It is important to note that, however, while the report highlighted Salford being at risk of an increase in extreme views, it doesn't mean that there will be an increase in far-right crime or politicians getting elected tomorrow. But the risk factor is there, so vulnerable people could be influenced by these views is a lot higher, say, than if we were in a richer area.
The Bishop of Salford has praised young people in the city for their part in combating the climate crisis. It comes as Bishop Arnold is attending COP26 in Glasgow. Our reporter Tom Parker is at Salford Cathedral now. Tom, why is it such an important statement?
Well, it's an important statement because it's quite rare for high-ranking religious figures to sort of speak out about these environmental issues, and it has been a long, hard slog for it, and in particular for young people who are the main sort of, the main instigators of most of these conversations. And obviously that has led to the situation today being that we now have the head bishop of Salford's diocese, speaking out about it. And he was very, very complimentary about young people, saying that it's come most strongly and loudly from young people who feel urgency because we're not looking after our common home, we're not caring for it, and we're not caring for our brothers and sisters. Now, this is a situation that's been going on for quite some time, but his praise of young people so far has been something to be revelled in, really, for our sort of age, because after the struggles that a lot of us have had, it's nice to see something positive happen.
And Tom, what advice has the bishop had for the people of Salford?
Well, I mean, he's given a fair amount of advice, it has to be said. I think he's been quite confident in what he said, and he said that you can, of course, reduce carbon emissions by using green energy and using public transport, electric vehicles, walking more, using bicycles. Of course, today we actually did have the introduction of the new B-bikes, or the Burnham bikes, whatever you want to call them, encouraging people to cycle more in and around the city. And I think it's a good idea. I think that overall we're looking at a brighter future, hopefully for Salford, who has been one of the worst hit towns in the country for air pollution. And even today, as we were setting up, it's been sunny all day and all of a sudden it started raining.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Feel free to share your thoughts on this on our social media at Salford Now. Now it's time for today's headlines.
Traffic was brought to a standstill near Manchester Airport by Insulate Britain protesters. The demonstrators blocked the carriageway near junction 6 of the M56 this morning by gluing themselves to the floor. Police have finally removed the protesters and 6 people have been arrested.
2 Met police officers have pleaded guilty over the misconduct of sharing photos of bodies of murdered sisters Beba Henry and Nicole Smallman on the social media platform WhatsApp. The police officers had been assigned to protect the scene after the sisters were found dead in bushes in a park in North London in June last year.
A dog rescue centre in Salford descended into chaos during an organised fireworks display at Barton City Airport on the weekend. The vulnerable dogs were reported to be out of control and in distress. There is a serious cause for concern for the welfare of the animals on bonfire night on the horizon.
You might have noticed fireworks already being set off near you as bonfire night approaches.
While it's good news for any nervous pets, there's been a strong reaction as the organised displays at Buell Hill Park and Princess Park have been cancelled, which is unrelated to the reaction of the Barton City fireworks display.
You've been reacting to this on our Facebook page.
Carolyn Billsborough said, "Ridiculous decision, the event is completely outside and I can see no reason to cancel this family event. Just an excuse to save money and look politically correct. Thousands are going to concerts and football matches which have not been cancelled."
Gemma Willett said, "Disgusting. Festivals, raves, Christmas markets, pubs open, and let's take the joy from the kids."
Ainsley Oakley said, "What an absolute joke, ruining everything for the kids. Can go get messy on Heaton Park but can't watch fireworks displays. Stupid because we watch A&E numbers go up now with burns as people attempt at doing them themselves."
Natalie Gardner said, "Great, everyone will be doing them at home. Better get those extra tablets for my dog." In other news, Salford man Ben Andrews has created a new children's book series, Better Places. He hopes that these books will shed light on the difficulties that individuals with limited mobility face on a daily basis, which is more common than you may expect. Jennifer Morby went to uncover more about these difficulties.
Now, if you're an able person, you might be led to believe that this is just your average street in Salford. However, if you're disabled, there are a lot of hazards here that would make it difficult for you to access where you want to go. Now, according to the Royal National Institute for Blind People, 78% of partially sighted or blind people rely on walking as their mode of exercise for the day. But unfortunately, there are different factors in the streets of Salford that can make this very difficult. For example, this car parked on the pavement and bins left out in the road makes it really difficult if you're in a wheelchair to get through the narrow gap on the pavement. And if you are partially sighted, it's very difficult to see these obstacles, which can then cause an injury. Ben Andrews has a degenerative visual impairment called retinitis pigmentosa and is hoping to actively improve accessibility through his new children's book series, Better Places.
It's a series of picture books to help children think about how places can be made better for disabled people. I just wanted to make it as fun and easy to understand as possible. Around a subject that I think some people think can't be made fun.
The books, published by Tiny Tree, will focus on different settings where characters with disabilities face accessibility challenges.
I've worked in sort of the adult space for about 12 years now, helping teams and organisations work towards a more inclusive, accessible offer for disabled people. I get it's a difficult task. It's just around. That's why I think we need standards creating where these discussions have happened amongst disabled people, and it's like, we've got disabled people, we've got engineers, we've got planning teams. Let's come together, have a discussion around, what's a happy medium.
This can include painting bollards brighter colours for the visually impaired and introducing audio signals on buses and trams.
The next stop will be Broadway.
Former ceremonial mayor of Salford, Charlie McIntyre, has used his experiences as a wheelchair user with multiple sclerosis to campaign for inclusion in parks.
I have been a councillor for 18 years and I was never able to sit at the top of the dais because it wasn't accessible. Now, if I'm looking at some of the parks in Salford, not all the parks in Salford have tables, but when they do, I'm stuck at the end, like a black sheep.
Do you think it's important for children to learn about how to make streets and environments more accessible for disabled people?
There needs to be disabilities included. There needs to be visual recognition that these people are our people, us.
Better Places will be hitting the shelves late next year, but what about availability in schools?
that's where we can reach the most kids in a single space sort of thing. But I also want them to be a bit of just a fun book to have around the house for parents.
Until then, I'll be doing my bit by being more street savvy and moving this bin off the pavement. Jennifer Morby, Salford Now.
That's all from us for now.
Have a lovely evening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.